bit less, is to introduce you to some basic commands. And let me make the screen larger. So can I check, does everybody of you have a command line waiting for input? So can you, let's make an attempt. If I write 2 plus 2, does everybody get 4? Is everybody able to make this and to get 4? Just to make sure that we are on the start line altogether, okay? And this is a first instruction. You can perform operations in R. And another thing, if you write Ctrl L, you clean the screen. Okay, so the basic operations are 2 plus 2, 2 times 2, 2 divided by 2, 2 minus 2. And 2 to the power of 2, which is probably the same than double asterisks. Let me see, yes. Okay, one important thing. R remembers the past instructions. This is something that Excel doesn't do, and it's very useful. If you type on the arrow up, you see that I get all the past instructions from the beginning, and arrow down again. This is extremely useful. And this is the behavior of Linux in general. When you work with Linux, many Linux programs remember the past instructions. You may say that even Word does, because when you cancel the last instruction, Word remembers what you did. But in this case, the program presents to you the instructions explicitly. Okay, one thing that we should learn is that if the computer crashes, which in Windows and Linux it's very rarely the case, but sometimes it still happens, you lose everything. So the first thing that we have to learn is how to save the state of the program. And first of all, before I move forward, let me open the wireless and let's see if there is a connection. Just 1 second. Because I want to show you on my website, there is a guide, an introductory guide to R, which I suggest you to download. It's always a pain to get, let's see, get the connection here. Okay, I have it. Just 1 second, it's here. And then, if you go down and down, Introduction to R, it's here. And you can find it on the R website. So it's probably better if you download the last version, but it's a very useful introduction. And let me see where it is. Here it is. You see that I found it under, there is, it's an introduction to, indeed, to RStudio. And it contains an introduction to RStudio and an introduction to R. And basically here you can find, this is a document that is 100 pages, it's still, I think, too large. There are some introductory guides on the web which are a bit shorter. But it's, what is important for you at this stage would be to read the first 10 pages. The first 10 pages basically are what we are dealing with. And there is an introduction, basically. Or I would say even a bit more than 10. Yeah, simple manipulation, I would say, yeah, something like 20 pages. Okay, but in any case, you don't need it now. And another thing that I wanted to, it's necessary that I introduce to you, and I tell you why I'm doing this, because I don't remember the comments. This happens quite often to me on the comments that allow me to save the state of the program. So I need to get an help. So the first way of getting an help is looking at the introductory guide. The second way of getting an help is using the question mark in R, and basically a question mark with save tells you, basically gives to you, delivers to you the help. And reading the help in this case is a bit tricky because I expanded the screen, but in your PC it should be readable, something like that. And it's save is not the correct command that I was looking for. And basically this help is very, you may find it in this case too long or complicated to read. Indeed, once that you understood how it is structured, it is very helpful. So let's go back to our, I will use the help again for more simple functions in the next few minutes. Let's go back to the necessity to save the state of the program. There is one simple way of saving everything, which is exiting. If you exit from the program, and exiting, you can exit with this instruction. If you exit from the program, then the program asks you if you want to save everything. If you write no, you lose everything, so you must be very careful here. If you write yes, this is done. And if I start R again, you see that it still remembers all the instructions that I made. Now, it's possible to save the history. And basically the history is the full list of the instruction that I used. I record it with instruction history. This one. This is very useful once again. You have to be careful because it doesn't keep in memory an infinite number of instructions. I think the number is very high, but it's limited to something like 1,000. And within a working day, it may be that you exceed this number of instructions. So it's better if you want to keep the history and save it, it's better if you sometimes save the history. And to save the history, you have to use the command save history. Just let me check if it is. Let me see, maybe. Yeah. You see, this is the command that you have to use, save history, and you don't have to specify the name of the file, because save history allows you to specify a file name between parentheses. If you just write save history and open and close round parentheses, it saves the history in a default file. So now, let me try it. If I make save history, it's saved, Now I can quit the program. I can even don't save, no. And then if I start again, I can use load history. And then there is everything. You see that the last command was save history. Okay, now I'm stopping here for a while and listening to your questions. Yeah, please.
Well, for me the history command doesn't work.
Doesn't work?
I get an error. Try to do that.
Yeah, what is the error?
It says error in external to blah blah file.
Let me see. It is this command that doesn't work.
Yes.
Did you use the parentheses?
Yes.
And the spelling is correct, are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, let me see what is the error. No, I don't think because it's save history. Because this is something that in the Mac. Okay, let me see. Just 1 second. And what is the problem here? There was a question. I will check and just yeah. Okay. Yeah. But no, you can get it from there is a book that is included in my website. You can download it. It's there, but I didn't really do anything so far. So basically, I just let me see. Do your ministry okay, perfect. And so this is Art Studio, correct? This is Art Studio. You don't need it. Yeah, I think so, but I can help you now with this, okay? But the important thing, you didn't lose anything. It's just, let me see if it works. This is Windows, correct? Okay, and then you should have the, okay. Let me have a look again at the save history. It's not currently implemented. Okay, just 1 second. So basically, one of your colleagues had an error, and the error is related probably to the Mac, because there is something different in the different operating systems. And a general information for you, when you get an error and you can't resolve it, what I suggest you do is to go to Google, and this is always an option when you use the open software, because the open software is widely used, and normally the people that use it, they are expert in the web and in browsing. So basically, if you copy and paste the error of Google, you find the solution. So the error in this case was something like save history is not, you see that Google already knows it. So if we do that, let's see what's the problem. Load or save display the command history. Let me see. It's, of course, yeah, let's see. It's marked. I'm just trying to understand if the problem has been solved already or not. When you exit from the program, does it allow you to save?
Yes.
Yes, and when you get back inside, do you have the history, the previous history there?
Yes.
Okay, so it's just save history and load history. Okay, let's forget it for now, because I think the most important thing is that you are able to save it. And if you need to exit from the program, it doesn't take much time. So it's, because I'm not sure, maybe that it's still a bug under Mac that these two programs don't work. And I don't think it's worth spending too much time on that. Okay?
Yeah.
And also, let me search for... Let's see if it works. Okay, let's try this one now. Let's try to save the image. Doesn't work, just make a trial in Mac.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Because save image, save history allows you to save only the history. Save image saves everything, and you will see what other things you may need to save besides the history. Okay? So save image, just take a note that saves everything, and also the history, which is something that is very useful. Okay, let's move forward, and the synthesis of this first 10 minutes is once in a while you should save it, because as you do with Excel or Word, because otherwise if you get a crash or the power is turned off, you lose everything. The nice thing of having the history saved is that you can repeat everything after the closure of your working session. You can repeat everything you did. Like when we will do an exercise together, it will take about a couple of hours to carry out. We will end up with an estimation of the peak river flow. And then when you get back home, you load the program and you can repeat all you did, because it's memorized. Okay, now, second important learning, A equal to 2, defining variables, and then if I type A, I get 2. And then I can operate with variables, so if I set B equal to 3, I can write A plus B, and it's 5. It's like you do in Excel when you put values into the cells and then you work with the cells with formulas. The same thing here. Instead of putting a value into a cell, you assign the value to the variable. And the variable name can be whatever I want, equal to 10. You don't have limitations, okay? You can use an infinite number of, infinite I'm not sure, but a large number of letters to define a variable. And of course you may say now it's too long, but if I write the W what, and then the tab allows me to complete the instruction. And the tab works with variable and with R instructions. So for instance, in my case, if I make save and then the tab, I get save image, or if I make save and the H, save history. So the tab is very useful to complete the names, and this is a common feature of the Unix system. in the Unix system and also I think in the Mac, you can complete the name of variables and instructions by using the tab. Okay, so basically, sorry, I defined some variables, and now you may forget what variables you defined. With the listing, you get all the variables. The listing, the instruction is ls. Be careful, R is case sensitive. So when I wrote whatever I want, I use the capital I, it's case sensitive. So basically, if I say capital A equal to 4, it's different from A. This is useful. On the other hand, sometimes may be confusing, because in Windows we are not used to make a difference between lowercase and uppercase. Perfect. Now, another instruction. Please stop me if you don't follow or if you don't understand something. I'm moving forward quite quickly because I assume that you have some experience already. So, and it seems to me by looking at your faces that you don't look like confused, please. Oh, sorry, this is a mistake. ls lists the variable. This is useful because, you know, if you may not remember, if you define 20 of them, and you get in this way a list. And look, if you don't know what is a function, the help is always useful. If you read this help now, still you may have some problems in understanding because your knowledge of the program is still limited. But in a couple of weeks you will be able to read this help and understand it, I'm sure of that, understand it quite fairly well. Okay. Of course, there are some, you may find some specification that you don't understand, and this happens to me as well. Even if I started using this program in 1994, but still, and it was called in another name, it was a commercial software. And still, there are some features that, of course, I don't understand. And when I see something that I don't understand, I just forget it if I feel that it's not important for me. But the help, I suggest you to start reading it, because you will see that it delivers useful information. Okay, how to remove the variable? rm, remove rm. And now, if you make a list, you will see that capital A is not there anymore. Let also me remove whatever I want. And now I just have A and B.
Sorry, it is possible to see the value of the variable?
The value, I don't know. Let me see. Oh, sorry. Because what you would like to get is a list of the variables with the value. So let me see. All names. Let me see what is all names. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. And I just want to tell you, I didn't know this instruction, I just want to tell you how I found it. So basically, when you call the help, I call the help for ls, and in the bottom of the help, I went to the bottom, and in the bottom of the help, there is a list of the similar functions. See also, you see? See also. I found see also very useful, and see also mentioned the ls.str. And also the examples sometimes are very useful. And so I want to try ls.str, and what I got is what I was looking for, what he was looking for. And okay, now vectors. Vector 1 equal to, the definition of the vector is done through a function c, called c, and then you define your vector by separating the numbers with a comma. Here is the result. Oh, sorry, I wanted to, yeah, here is the result. And defining the vector, I did this. Individual elements can be visualized by using the square parentheses and giving the position of the element inside the parentheses. And you can perform operations with the vector. So you can just write vector 1, 2 plus b, and the result is 5. Or you may just write vector 1 plus 2, and the operation is such that a value of 2 is added to each element of the vector. Or you can do vector 1 times 2, and each element of the vector is multiplied by 2. And also you can define matrices. So basically, in order to define matrices, matrix 1 equal to array, the instruction is array, and then you need to give the dimension. So basically, if you look at the first instruction that I typed, can you see it still on the screen, or the sun is? Let me see. Maybe it's here. No, it's not the sun, but it's. Yeah, maybe better. So basically, array allows you to define a matrix, and what I gave you the dimension. The dimension is a vector, so I used a vector to give the dimension. You see that it's a kind of nested instruction. I nested the definition of the vector of the dimension inside the array. And also I could, the vector is a vector 2 by 2, but it could be a vector let me see what, yeah. Because this is a dimension, I don't understand. Yeah, because it's a matrix with 3 dimensions, and therefore when you visualize it, this is a matrix with 3 dimensions, so it cannot be displayed on a plane. On a sheet, and therefore in order to display it, you see that it first displays the dimension, the third dimension 1 and the third dimension 2. And of course you have to be careful when defining matrices. You have to be careful because if you expand the dimension of the matrix, of the matrix, you easily run out of the RAM of your PC. And this is a problem that you will not encounter with me because we will not use matrices. But once I defined a matrix that was, I think it was a matrix with 3 dimensions, and one of the dimensions was like 1 million. And I ran out of the RAM memory, and the result was that I had to switch off the PC and start back again, because when you run out of memory, of RAM memory, which is the memory that is, you know, I don't know how to define it, but it's the light memory that is not stored on the hard disk. And therefore, when you run out of it, the PC becomes unusable. And nowadays, it's difficult that you run out of RAM memory because the body has a lot of gigas of RAM. But I have 12 gigas, and with the matrix with 3 dimensions, I run out of it. And usually hard has a limitation. It doesn't use all the memory. And but this is not always a default. But basically, I just tell you, if you exceed, if the matrix becomes really heavy, be careful. With 3 dimensions, you must be careful already. If you have just a vector with 1 dimension, you can use up to some millions of elements in the vector without running out of memory. But if you get a dimension that is about millions, and the other one is, and you have a second dimension, be careful. Okay? It's not a big problem. The problem is that you lose everything. Okay, and then let me remove this matrix in order to give you other information. And now, the matrix can be defined by giving values. In the previous case, we found some NAs as matrix entries. NA means not assigned. In this case, I assigned a 0, and that's it. Okay, now,
And so if I want to insert a comment,
so insert comments. Okay, insert comments, you know, the comments usually are used, are included in programs, and I'm not yet programming. So you can use R in 2 ways. The first way is the interactive command by command way. And this means that you type one command after the other. And in this case, inserting comment is a bit tricky because you can do that, but it's a bit tricky. I'll explain to you. In the next step, I will tell you how to program R. Instead of giving one by one the instructions, I will tell you how to give a series of instructions, which is a program, and then how to upload them. Then, in the series of instructions, you can include comments. For now, I tell you how 2 potential ways of introducing comments in this modality. In this interactive modality. First of all, if you use how do you call in English the symbol hash? Okay, a hash, and this is a comment. It doesn't produce any result. The only result that you obtain is that it's stored in your history. So basically, my first reply is, if you want to include a comment in the history, just use the hash. Second, there is a third type of variable that can be used, a fourth type. Besides variables, vectors, and matrix, you can use a list. And the list is, instead of being a variable, is a list of variables, so that you can group several variables within just one cluster, and the cluster is the list. And some of the variables can be alphanumeric variables. So first of all, let's introduce the alphanumeric variable, a equal to alpha. You just have to use the quotes. This is an alphanumeric variable. Of course, you cannot perform a mathematical operation with it. But the alphanumeric variable could be used as a comment. Now, the list. Let's define it. Lists are very useful in R. So list one, you need first to define that it's a list. And up to now, if you type list one, it just says you that it's a list. And now you can assign elements to the list. So you can say list one, and it wants a name, first element is equal to A, and this is alphanumeric. And then I can type list one, second element